Thank you. I've actually really enjoyed being here, meeting you guys, learning about this company, feeling the vibe here is really cool. You guys have something really special. I've been in a lot of companies. I've been associated with a lot of things. This is one of the coolest companies I've ever been associated with, and I'm not just saying that. It really is. You have a great culture. So, but I don't know hardly any of you, just a few. So just for my benefit, raise your hand if you're in sales. Okay. Raise your hand if you're in product or operations. Okay, what else? Marketing. Client success now. Okay, keep them up. So if your hand's not up, you're fired. Eric told me I could fire anybody. So that's a trick question. Everybody's hand should be up when I say, are you in client success? This is a point I'm going to make. Here, I'll kind of move on to this slide. There we go. Because it's something I think is here, and I was kind of tricking you, but I want to emphasize it for just a minute. So, picture of a car. It's a Bugatti, actually. Pretty slick car. And I have a question about this car that I want to ask. So, what are brakes for? Somebody answer the question, what are brakes for? To stop. No, that's what they do. Yeah. That's not what they're for. Okay. What are brakes for? That's how they work. That's what they do. That's not what they're for.
Check your speed.
Check your speed? Decelerating is how they work, but it's not what they're for. What's the purpose of brakes? Why do we have them?
Peace of mind.
To keep the driver and passengers safe.
You're getting closer, but I can be safe by never getting into this car. I do not need brakes to be safe. I'll just never get in that car.
Stop you from going out of control.
That's how they function. What are they for? Why do we have brakes?
Regulate your velocity. Oh, that's a good answer.
It's getting close. Was there a comment on the extended group here?
There was, on the phone.
What'd you say, D-Ray?
Anthony said to make sure you don't hit stuff.
It's a great idea, but I can avoid hitting stuff just by never getting in the car. You're getting pretty close. What's the real fundamental purpose, John?
To succeed as drivers?
So close. So close. I'm letting you dangle. Think about it. Not how they work, not what they do, but what they're for. What's the real purpose of brakes? Why do they exist at all?
Maybe they're stupid.
Say it loud.
So you can go fast.
Why do I need brakes to go fast?
So then you can stop.
Who in here would get in any car and accelerate if it didn't have brakes? The fundamental above almost any reasonable speed, you would never do it. Brakes function by slowing the car down, by stopping you, by avoiding obstacles, by regulating your velocity, by all sorts of things, but that's not what they're for. Think about it. The whole purpose of every part of this car is to go fast. And it's true even of a crappy Toyota Corolla or whatever. Not that those are crappy. No.
I tried.
Whoops. Any car. The purpose of every single piece on here is the same as the purpose of the car. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't disaggregate the function of these pieces and say they have different purposes. They function differently because you need all those functions, but the purpose is to go fast. And I'm going to compare that to a company. You might do almost anything in this company, from technical writer to coder to, paying the bills to whatever. But all of those parts, however they function, have the same purpose. And that purpose is to make your customers go fast. And that insight helps drive, I think, a lot of the things we do and we think about with client success. Client success, Yes, there are people assigned to client success, but it's not a function, it's a core strategy. Client success is what we do. We don't exist if we don't make our clients go faster. And I love this company because it has a very specific mandate around helping clients go faster and be more successful. So I'm going to say we are all client success in some sense, okay? We're all supporting the larger purpose of the vehicle. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about 5 principles of client success. These are my 5 principles. They're gleaned from a career in the SaaS B2B business. I haven't worked in consumer, I haven't worked in entertainment, I haven't worked in anything in my entire career except SaaS B2B. So whether or not these are portable to other spaces, I don't know or even care, but they are very relevant to the thing we do. So let's talk about them. Principle number 1, shocker, is success. What do I mean? Well, we say client success, but do we really mean client success when we talk about that? I think in this company we do, but let me talk in broad terms. A lot of times we look at client success teams and we dig in and we see what they're doing, and what they're doing isn't really driving client success, meaning the success of our clients, but driving the company's success, focusing on upsells and renewal and things like that, which are all good, but they can get in the way of thinking one level deeper. What is that customer? What does success mean to them? What do they need to be successful? And so one aspect of this, and it's subtle here, not so subtle in other companies, because I think you guys get it, which is that we have to think about what makes them more successful. What problem are we solving for them? What are their needs? Rather than what are the needs of this organization exclusively. We have to get to their side of the table. Now, one interesting thing on all this is that a lot of client success, customer success talk, and you go to conferences and you read books and all this stuff, talks about delighting the customer. And believe me, there's nothing wrong at all with delighting the customer. But here's the problem in SaaS B2B. It will not get you renewals. We need, in this business model, high rates of long-term renewals, meaning 90+% of our customers renewing year after year after year, 5, 6 years down the road. You don't get that by making a person happy. One of the things is we don't actually have a person as our customer. Now, there's people in corporations, but it's the organization that's the customer. And an organization cannot experience joy or delight or happiness. It can experience actually one thing very exquisitely, and that is success. Organizations are designed to experience success. And so we have to figure out what kind of success they're designed to experience and make sure they do. And that is different than focusing on making them happy. Believe me, I'm not saying don't make your customers happy. You should absolutely, and shame on you if you don't, but it will not be enough. We have to get our minds all the way into thinking about their success from their perspective, understand it, engineer it, and move it forward. Here's one of the studies that kind of demonstrates this. This is a sample output. There's a group called CEB. You may have heard of them. They do huge business studies. This one had over 100,000 data points. And essentially, if you compare loyalty and satisfaction, this is what you discover. There's no relationship. Not over large, vast amounts of money. People who are satisfied sometimes don't renew. People who are dissatisfied, or yeah, that's what that would be here. So people who are dissatisfied sometimes renew a lot. It comes down to the fact that satisfaction and happiness are actually not the dimension that makes the difference in the decision. What makes the difference is, have we made them materially more successful in a way that they know, can visualize, and can, as an organization, can they consume that? Is it material to them, right? Here's another interesting study that was done. This guy I know, he's a ex-COO at Sun Microsystems, and years ago they did this study that shocked them. They divided their customers into these 3 groups. So they had Group A were customers who had experienced a bug in their software and had a terrible customer service experience. The second group was they'd experienced a bug but had a good customer service experience, and then the third group had experienced no bug. And what do you think was the result? What do you think they learned about loyalty from these three groups? They studied thousands of customers. Yes? Group B has the greatest loyalty. Why?
I would say, in my opinion, that once they've experienced the bad, they appreciate the good a lot better and a lot more. And so the people that never experienced the bad in the first place don't appreciate what they got from the company as much. But that's just my first opinion.
Interesting. Any other thoughts? Why we would see this? Yeah.
I think, the how to win friends and influence people idea where everyone likes to feel important, and in the cases where they experience a bug and then they get really good service, I think the people feel and the company feels really important, like they went out of their way because I'm valuable to them.
Okay, yeah.
So I actually think there's maybe something that's a strong correlation with experience a bug, and that is that you're using the service and it's important to your success. And so when you experience a bug, you recognize that your life stinks without it. And so if you've never experienced a bug, then it's either because you're not using it and so you've never overcome it, or I don't know. So that's just my
No, you're very much on the right
experience a
track.
bug means that
Yeah.
you see that there's something of value that needs to be fixed, and so
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You're very much on the right track. One of the differences has to do with understanding the difference between a bad and a good experience. Okay, what makes a bad experience, what makes a good experience? In this case, they were actually doing something very specific here that made a big difference. It was called next problem avoidance. Next problem avoidance was, hey, we know you've got this, but what other things can we foresee, given your use case and how you're engaging with our technology, are going to be happening next? And anticipating that meant a huge amount to their customers. It meant that we were no longer just buying software from this company. This company now has become a different thing to us. What's that thing? It's more like a partner, right? It's more like someone who's along with me for the ride. They're a river guide. They're helping, they're anticipating. They're getting more into it. Your point makes perfect sense too. A lot of these customers really weren't using this stuff very much. So it matters a lot what kind of experience we have. And in fact, the reason this was so significant is because their customers were mostly businesses. People never did buy Sun Microsystems. What they were discovering was that these customers didn't just need a computer with really advanced graphics software. What they needed was a partner to help them get where they were going. And that brings me to my second principle, which I call bonding. Now, kind of in the traditional transactional world, relationships mattered a lot, right? Relationships were everything. I know Jim and he knows me, and we go out for a beer, and every year we get our renewal. It's different in SaaS B2B. And partly because we're dealing with organizations, right? It won't always be Jim. Next year it'll be Jane, and next year it'll be someone after that. So having just established a relationship isn't going to be enough. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's something wrong with relationships. But they're not everything. They're not going to get you all the way there. You have to build something bigger. And I call it bonding. What is bonding? Bonding is when you have become integral to the customer's success. When they can no longer see their success without you in the equation. Now, you probably heard the term, people who buy drills don't want drills, they want holes. You ever heard that? I mean, people don't want your product. They want the benefits that your product promises. That's why they're buying. They don't buy it because they want to add more widgets to their thing. They don't buy it. They don't want software. Nobody wants software. What they want are those benefits. And to understand that is really important. It's also important to understand that you and the way you've configured those may not completely comprehend all the things they're trying to do in their world, in their life, in their organization. And so bonding is about switching into a mindset in which you start understanding their economics. What's their equation for success? How can you help them get there? And that leads to this next principle, which is, in a lot of cases, pretty much every company I've worked with, except for maybe this one, sees itself as a technology provider. Technology is the solution. They've got this incredibly great technology. If they drop it into an organization, that organization's just going to blow up. It's going to be awesome. But really, technology doesn't transform organizations. What transforms organizations is business process change, behavior change. Technology is critical because it enables it, makes it possible, and makes it scalable. Without technology, you usually can't have these transformative changes. But you have to remember, it's the process change, the behavior change that actually creates the value. So it's really important to understand while you're dropping in this cool technology, which is critical, that there's another layer there. It's about helping that organization change. When we look at client success activities and what we're doing to engage with clients, we have to remember that we are looking for that behavior change. We're trying to move the needle on that, not just drop technology into their organization. And so that's why I say not just technology, right? It's the combination. You'll achieve bonding when you bring technology and expertise to help them transform how they behave. Those are the things, that combination, that drives real transformation in organizations. Fourth principle. Because of the last three, success, bonding, and behavior, we've come to understand that to be really great at client success, to really be that river guide, that partner, requires us to understand some things. How can we make them successful if we don't even know how they define success? How can we make them transform their business process if we don't know what it is? And so a lot of times, if you go to a lot of tech companies, I'm from Silicon Valley, so I've been to many of them. What you find is that they set up a client success organization, which is really a training organization. It's really training. That's the focus. And training is really important. You have to get them trained. They have to become familiar. They have to get that deep use case going. But just training isn't enough. If we don't go to that other side, again, all of these principles show how one thing is good but not good enough. We have to go one level further, and we have to become a really powerful learning organization. It's client success that allows this organization to take back and say, well, that's interesting how they're using it. That's different. Why that playlist? Why that content group? Why that rollout strategy? That's interesting. Asking why is the root function of client success. Interesting, because most client success teams are designed to tell you why. But that's a really big difference. Last principle, I call it velocity. Anybody who says that the function of the company, that its purpose and that therefore the purpose of client success is to make sure the client receives value is right. That's true. That's true. Absolutely true. And they better see a lot of it. But that's not quite enough, and here's why. Not in SaaS B2B. In SaaS B2B, we have to, remember, we need year after year after year of high renewal rates, okay? Not just a really great experience this year, but another one, and another one, and another one. So delivering value, which is a great concept, is one that really comes from a transactional mindset. Right? I bought something, I got value, it was a good experience, I'll probably buy again. That's different than the SaaS B2B equation, which means we have to constantly be upping the value equation. And I call that velocity. It's value, but it's up and to the right. Year after year. Now what happens, by the way, how did I learn this lesson? Well, I've been in lots of situations where we create value, awesome, and then we keep creating that value. So we're like this. What happens to those customers? They churn. Why do they churn? They're getting value. What the heck is that about? I'm scratching my noodle for like years. The answer is we're dealing with organizations. People change, right? So that first year, that IT manager or that HR manager got a big boost and she looked like a star to her boss and it was a fantastic win and you know, the company was awesome. And the next year it was the same. Who's standing up to take credit for that? Who do we make look like a star at that point? The problem is that static kind of value delivery model, it wears off. People get acclimatized to it. It doesn't continue to provide the wow factor that drives budgeting. Remember how fierce budgets are. You guys deal with this all the time. How are you going to get that next budget again and again, renewal year after renewal year? And the answer is it can't be static. Static is death. You've got to be up and to the right. That's what velocity is. And if you look at the principles in order, success means you're focused on learning about and driving their success. Bonding means you've become embedded in their success equation, right? Behavior change means you're transforming that organization, not just dropping technology in. All of these principles lead you to a place where this is not too hard to achieve. It might seem really crazy, like how can we continually provide more and more and more value? I guarantee you this company is perfectly situated to do that. Better than almost any company I've ever seen. You have a value prop that is driven by raising productivity. You have technology that makes that durable and scalable. There's no question about it. It's doable. And the companies that do this are the ones that are killing it year after year in the SaaS B2B world. It's a different mindset, and that's where these 5 principles come from. Any questions about any of these? Now, how do you do this? Okay, so those are the principles. All great, arm waving. Now, how do you actually do this? The answer is, it's very simple, actually. Companies, SaaS B2B companies that produce high levels of long-term renewal are companies that are aligned to customer value. And alignment is an expression of emphasizing and embedding all these principles into everything we do. So I'll describe it this way. It's like answering a series of questions. Why, what, who, how, all those kinds of things. In a company that's aligned for client success, marketing very much focuses on answering the question of why buy this company's solution? Why engage with this company? And the why is always benefits, right? It's not because our technology is really easy to use. It's because it will drive productivity. It will make your deployment 10 times more effective. It's going to do these things. These are the benefits. That's the why. Lead gen offers an answer to the question of who. And this is really important. This is a key part of alignment. If your why is going to the right who, you are already halfway there, right? Because now the right benefits comprehended by the right people who can consume and experience those benefits. Very critical. If those are feeding into sales, what's sales really answering? Really, by the time they get to sales, they should already know why. I get it. You guys make us more productive. I get it. Tell me what the solution is, though. What's going to constitute that? Sales answers that. So solution, right? We're going to get to this technology. You want this kind of training. You want this kind of whatever. The combination, as I've said, of technology and expertise is really the solution that produces the result. And then client success answers the question how. How do I know when I go to a company that something's profoundly wrong with their client success? If I sit in on a kickoff call or a first CSM call, and the CSM is saying, why are you buying this? What value are you hoping to get? That is like 3 steps too late for them. That should be embedded in that account knowledge before it ever gets to a CSM. They should never have to ask that question. It should be, I see what you guys are going for. You want higher productivity on this. You're deploying this. We got to figure out, definitely the right solution. Now we're just going to figure out how we're going to do that. How fast are we going to go? What technology, what are we going to, all that is the how, okay? Now this is great. This should produce a really good result. But remember I talk about velocity. How are we going to keep producing this result? This is a one-time show here, the way I've shown it. How do you keep producing it? How do we repeat? And the answer is what I call the velocity machine. The velocity machine is you repeat this process. You've got a how, and then when that's delivered, when it's materialized and measured and made crystal clear to the customer, then it's on to the next one. We do another why and another what. It's rinse and repeat. That's the process. There's really not that much mystery in this. If you can get the right why and the right person into the system, then it's a question of repeating that every year, saying, okay, awesome, we did great last year. Look, we measured it, we proved it, we took the hill. So what's next? What's next for you guys? What are you struggling with this year? What's your issue? What's the top strategic priority of your company this year? Oh, wow. I'm glad to hear that, because guess what? We've got technology and expertise to help you get there. Let's set that as our next hill we're going to take. And repeating that process, this is consistently how the best companies drive high levels of year after year after year renewal. And that's the solution. It isn't a huge mystery, but as you can imagine, in a way, it's hard work, right? Because think of all the people who got them to this point, and now we're going to redo it and redo it and redo it. I have immense respect for the CSMs that do this well. I've seen them. They're fantastic. They're kind of everything people. They have to know the product like crazy. They have to be huge learners. They have to understand their organizations, their customers really well. They have to follow the strategic direction their clients are going in and always be thinking about the next solution. It's called solutioning. All of that is a process, I'm sure, and I've met several, that we do well here. I've seen people do it well in lots of companies. If you can turn that into a process end to end, that is the process that the whole company follows, you get incredible results. That's the velocity machine. There's really not much more to it. A lot of it's being done here. It's all about, the things that we're doing really are all about adding more tools to the toolkit, clarifying, what the exact kind of components of those tasks are, what works, making sure our CSMs have the resources, the time, and the skills and the tools to be able to do it really well. That's the task. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions or talk about anything if you guys have any. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I have had an opportunity to do is to dig deep into your renewal numbers and all the kind of what I call the client dynamics, how many come in, how that all works. And I see a very characteristic signs of new company, maybe not exactly new company, but kind of new product growing into a space. So that's one thing that, I've seen it before. None of it is like, uh-oh, right? This is typical, this is characteristic. And then secondly, to your point, I've had a chance to kind of look at how things are done, get a real sense of how people think here from the top down, what people are experiencing. Every single thing that I see is something I've seen elsewhere, something that has been typical to deal with. The difference is a lot of companies come to kind of the client success thing with the wrong mindset. They come thinking it's a function, it's just one thing, people should just, go do your thing and get the renewal rate up. You don't see that here. And actually, in a lot of ways, that's the biggest difference between companies that I would say are going to be successful and those that are not, is just that culture of thinking, well, that's just, we're just a sales organization, we're just a technology organization. No, you have to be all those things, right? You're the Bugatti, you guys. This company has culturally in its DNA all of the pieces to get that without struggling, without going through a painful, convulsive change. On top of that, really great people. I've been very impressed. And seems like good technology. Haven't gotten as deep into that, but there are a number of attributes about the technology that I've looked at to make sure that they aren't going to get in the way, and clearly they're not. So there's just a lot of the raw material, but most importantly, that kind of mindset here that I associate with companies that have a good chance of success. I would say here, it's almost a certainty. I'm that confident. I really like what I'm seeing here. Oh, I have a lot to say about this. I doubt I have very much time. So let me give you a 30-second answer. Client success has really only two functions that are utterly unique. Almost everything they do, everyone should be doing in terms of driving client success. But they do two things that are unique. One, they're the people directly responsible for interacting with the customer about their success. And the second follows from that. They're the one most directly responsible for learning. So one of the other things that can be done, and I think this is really important to kind of add as another element, is that wherever I am in the organization, I want to know what's the next thing, what's happening out there, what are you seeing? Companies that are successful in client success are companies where the product people are saying, when can I get a meeting to hear what's going on? Tell me when I can find out how that playlist worked or how that function worked. Almost wherever you are, you should be wanting to hear that. And it's true for sales. They know a lot too. They see a lot too. You should, there should be a culture of, I can't wait to hear how that project went. I know we tried something new. What was the outcome? That kind of desire to kind of glean what client success is seeing is a real attribute of very successful companies where all the parts are working together. Marketing should be thinking, well, I know we said that, we put that messaging out there. Does it align? Does it jive? Is there any, evidence that we hit the nail on the head? What kind of things do our customers say? What are they talking about? What topics are they interested in? So it's a general culture of learning. A lot of my colleagues call it a learning organization, is an aligned organization. That's one thing. There are many more things, but that's my quickest answer. Hope that's helpful. So we call those center of the bullseye customers, right? They have perfect alignment with our value proposition. They're an organization usually that is ready and able to make change. Well, that's not always easy to tell from the beginning. But one of the things that's extremely important to do, and you can see it in here, is to make sure that your marketing is laser focused on the key value benefits of your solution, okay? Not on its ease of use or its ability to whatever. It's got to be focused around the attributes you've identified as the ones that associate with customer or client success. And that is why the learning organization is so important. Usually we don't find that out till we've been through the story with a bunch of customers. Well, guess what? Good news. You guys have been through the story with a bunch of customers. So the answer is we actually know. And we've spent a bunch of time studying and understanding what kinds of different things, and we'll learn more, but there's a lot of institutional knowledge here about what kind of customers succeed and don't. And one of the things is to keep tuning up what works here back into here so that the people who are attracted to this message are the ones who are laser focused on it. It's not about making a general benefits, it's about being extremely focused on these are the kind of benefits. That's the most general answer I have to the question, but a lot of it also happens here when you're vetting the customer. And we're working on a playbook that involves making sure that the benefits they think they're getting are locked in and crystal clear, no later than here, so that we can understand what kind of experience they're going to have, what kind of experience we'll have with them. Yeah. Velocity is about continually increasing value. It's not about just producing value. It's about up and to the right.
So the physics stuff in it, what's the physics?
Yeah, so you know what the definition of physics is. Velocity equals displacement divided by time. You moved from A to B in this amount of time. So I should have a picture of this. It's like that. It's not just that we're going 60 miles an hour. It's that we started at 0 miles an hour. We got to 60 miles an hour in 10 seconds. That's velocity. And that is kind of, the idea there is that it's a dynamic variable. It's not just, hey, we produce X amount of value for this company. They should appreciate that. It's about, we're going to do better and better and better for you. It's a great question. And the answer is not a lot more variety or heterogeneity than you have in your benefits model for your platform. So We aren't quite there yet in this company, but what I've seen repeatedly in other companies is that there is a range of what success is, but it's not an infinite range. There's a limited number of kind of versions of this, particularly if you've got the who down and you're getting center of the bullseye customers. There are going to be a handful or maybe several kind of major modal variants of this kind of idea of success. Yeah.
And just to add to that, we do have a lot of conversations with clients that say, what does success look like? And they're kind of like, survival, or something like that. It's not, sometimes not super well thought out, except that they generally want to get to a better place. And I think back to this river guide concept, we have so much experience that we can actually guide them a little bit on, hey, this is how people have navigated these waters before, and help drive them towards that bullseye a little bit better.
Yeah, and
some of that variation, which is a little bit painful internally.
and maybe just to riff on that, a lot of the expertise in this organization helps them answer that question. In many cases, a properly defined visioning exercise, or whatever you want to call it, will help them unearth very clearly what it is they really need. They're not always very expert at defining it or articulating it. That's a part of the expertise equation. It further emphasizes my point that we're not just a technology company. We've got all this expertise. We should see that expertise as a central part of our offering. That's a huge part of why people work with us. It should be.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost like we're not just asking them to tell us or what their success is, but telling them this is what success should like for you, helping them to adopt that and then fulfilling.
Yeah, it can, as long as you're understanding it within the context of their business. Absolutely.